Let's talk about composition and framing, some tips and tricks. Very important thing is look at the background. Whatever you're filming, look at the background. Ask yourself, pay attention to the background. Ask yourself, what do I want in the background and what do I not want in the background? Try to declutter the background. There's often we don't pay attention and then we don't see little things like parts of the furniture sticking in our shots, parts of some unidentified objects. Move and find a good frame, a good position for your shots. Move with the phone so that those things that are disturbing you in the background don't appear in the shot anymore. It's very important to think about the context. Another thing that's going to be very useful before you start filming is the grid. The grid is that thing that divides your frame on the phone into thirds, 9 squares. When you have the grid on, you will have these very thin lines across your screen. The key elements of your shot should be placed at or near the points of the intersection. So this is one point of intersection, this is another one, and this is another one, and this is another one. This shot is just an example of how you can place key elements on the frame using the grid. Let's talk about framing. A few more things about framing. The rule of thirds is also a foundation for framing your shot with a proper headroom and a proper lead looking room, lead head looking. So when you're framing people, the primary area of focus should be around the eyes, so near or at the intersection. Let's check this out. So when you're filming a person, when you're making a shot, let's say an interview, or you're filming a person, make sure you create enough headroom above the head. This is very important because it's going to help you also later when you're editing it. You might want to reduce space around the head, but you can't add it. When people speak or look or move into a certain direction, like in this case, I'm looking into this direction. And when I'm doing that, and when you're trying to capture me, make sure that you leave some room open in this part of the frame. Whichever direction the object is turning towards, that's where you need to create more space. And then you create less space on the other side. Let's talk about video resolution also. Video resolution of your video is quite important. Now, most of the phones these days have 4K. Now, if you want to film in the 4K, so that's ultra high definition, UHD, you can use that, but only if you know that you have enough space on the internal storage, because it might happen to you that you're filming in 4K and then suddenly, before you're even done with filming, the notification shows up telling you that you're running out of storage space. Let's talk about frames. Frames are also important. The number of frames, which is FPS, this is the way you will find them in your settings. So if you're going to film in 24 frames per second, that means that that's the number of frames that you will see in your shot in 1 second. If you're going to film in 60 frames per second, the frames will increase. If you're going to be using a video for, let's say, slow motion, if you're going to put your video in slow motion in the editing, or if you're going to speed it up, then I would strongly advise you to choose the highest number of frames per second that you have on the phone. And that's the only thing that you need to think about the frames. Let's talk about the perspective. Perspective, how you're capturing your shots is very important. It speaks the language of storytelling. Think about what do you want to say? How do you want to show something? You know, when you're using your smartphone to film, it's very interesting what you can do with it. You can also turn it upside down and film in that way. Then there's a perspective of above. That's also very interesting. It can tell a lot of stories. Then it's the perspective that's on, in this case, maybe even on the eye level, but it's also an interesting shot. And then you have the shot of a storyteller. So what do I see? Let's go behind the people and let's create this observant point of view. So all these points of view, all these perspectives are very important for you when you're creating a video. Use as many of different perspectives as possible, because that's going to make your video more interesting.